Sure, thanks, Joe.
How's everybody doing?
All right. How you doing?
We're good. Good team win. So we're in the playoffs, right?
Now look, I know I'm supposed to be neutral here, but I just could not contain my excitement after the historical turnaround the Giants had in 2022. Here at MetLife Stadium, post-game, New Year's Day, the Giants won 38-10 against the Colts. And let me tell you something, they're going back to the playoffs for the first time since 2016. With a record of 9-6-1, the Giants have now locked in at the number 6 seed. All right, hold on a second. The Giants just made the playoffs. They have a winning record, and it hasn't even been 12 full months since the ugliest ending to a season in franchise history. So how did they manage to pull it off? Well, our story begins on a cold winter day at the Meadowlands just about a year ago.
At the half. Interesting formation.
I mean, really, you're at the 4-yard line, and you don't feel comfortable enough in your offense to be able to run a traditional play?
The fans were fed up, and rightfully so too. The Giants had been in a downward spiral for years, going through this continuous cycle of new head coach every 2 years. So would ownership finally do something to break this cycle and bring the once storied franchise back to the promised land?
Hey, John, I'm curious, is this your lowest moment in your association with the Giants? And is this as embarrassed as you've been about the franchise?
Honestly, I would have to say yes. Yes, it is. I kept thinking during this season that we had hit rock bottom, and then each week it got a little worse. So honestly, I'm not proud of saying this, but if I'm going to be 100% honest, I would have to say the answer is yes.
How long are fans going to have to deal with this?
Daniel Jones, will he be the quarterback of the future? They have the 5th and 7th first-round picks in the upcoming draft. Do they go get a quarterback? That will be something they're going to look at.
I mean, this is just unbelievable. Joe Judge is 10-22 in 2 seasons with the Giants, and he's just imploding right before our eyes.
It's going to come to the general manager and the head coach. Are you going to get rid of Dave Gettleman at GM? That's most likely going to happen. Are you going to get rid of head coach Joe Judge? That's something that we are not sure of as of now.
I've seen all I need to see of Joe Judge as head coach of the Giants.
Heading into the offseason, the Giants had 3 main questions to answer. The first and most obvious one is, of course, how will they fill the vacancies at general manager and head coach? Then it's, how will they improve the team through the draft? And finally, do Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones fit into the team's long-term plans? Well, it didn't take long for the Giants to answer the first question, as after an extensive search, the Giants hired general manager Joe Schoen, who was a former assistant general manager with the Buffalo Bills.
I just think that the Giants did themselves wonders by going out and get Schoen. With Schoen taking over, I think, as Annabelle, you pointed out so well, he does a great job at evaluating talent and making trades for talent that will help win the football game,
Joe Schoen's first order of business after arriving in East Rutherford, New Jersey, wasn't identifying talent on the field, but rather off it. Joe Schoen helped conduct a search and ultimately decided to bring over his buddy, offensive coordinator with the Buffalo Bills, Brian Daboll, in as head coach of the New York Football Giants.
I like the fact that they got Daboll because you need to get an offense that's actually clicking. I don't know if that's going to be possible in year 1 for Daboll, because I think the Giants are in a place now where you're right. We don't quite know what Daniel Jones is going to be.
The Giants got the guys they wanted, but now it's time to see if they can prove their worth. With 2 top 10 picks in the draft, let's see if the Giants can properly address question number 2.
It's a new era. It's no longer Dave Gettleman's team, and I'm not a Giants fan, but I think you can really tell there is a culture that is getting put in place by Brian Daboll and this front office, and that's a great move to kind of get that going.
Back to the Giants at 7. They get Neal, who I thought was a lock at 5. They get him at 7. If you're the Giants at that point, you just got probably one of the top defensive ends in the draft, and then you got maybe arguably one of the best tackles in the draft.
This is really everything they could have asked for in the draft. This is the best I felt about a Giants first round in years.
After a productive offseason, the Giants are ready to get back on the field, this time with a clearer vision of the team's future. Speaking of the team's future, both Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley were entering the final year of their contracts. With both becoming free agents at the end of the year, this would be a make-or-break year for both Jones and Barkley.
I'm not expecting the Giants to, shock the world and make the playoffs. Not even expecting them to have a winning record. I think 5-12, 4-13. I just think they're a little weaker.
I'm hoping for 6 or 7, maybe 8 wins. But
yeah, hopefully long-term outlook, just find your franchise quarterback, build a good team.
So how did things pan out for the Giants in 2022? Well, I'll tell you this. I think they found their franchise quarterback of the future. And that Barkley guy, yeah, he's pretty good too.
Jones takes the snap, rolls right, shovel pass for Barkley. Barkley in for the two-point conversion. Jones back to throw. Jones is going to run it. Jones up the middle. He's got the first down to midfield and slides to safety.
That's all you want. You want to give your fans something to be proud about. Be happy with 2-0, but you can't be satisfied.
Ranges back to his 34. Muff the punt. It's on the ground. Loose. And the Giants have recovered it at the 37.
Bend it, but not break it.
A lot of good things for the Giants.
Jones lined up left. Saquon takes the snap. Saquon bounces outside. Barkley's in for the touchdown. And
the great thing about it, as we continue to trust each other, we're going to get better.
Under pressure, hit by Thibodeau, ball comes loose, and the Giants scramble for it. It's still loose, and finally recovered.
Lamar Jackson fumbles the ball. It was the rookie Kayvon Thibodeau that forced the fumble.
You know, we're a team that we got a lot of players with chips on their shoulders. We got a lot of players that's willing to fight with their backs against the wall, and that's what we just come to do every day. We kind of bring that energy. Once we start really playing that complementary football, we're gonna, it's gonna look great.
Jones back to throw, fires one deep down the right side. He's got a receiver leaping, tries, made for it, and it's caught for the touchdown. Handoff Barkley, runs right to the end zone, touchdown Giants.
Saquon looked explosive today. He carried the ball 35 times, a career high for him. He went for 152 yards from scrimmage.
Backs away from pressure, still looking, now rolls left, throws into the end zone, and it's knocked away incomplete. Darnay Holmes knocked it away.
In front of the home crowd, chanting your name. What are you feeling in this moment, Daniel?
Yeah, it's a big win for us. Fun season, proud of the team, proud of these guys. Came out and played well today, did what we had to do, but a lot of work ahead of us. We're going to enjoy this one, but proud of the team for sure.
It's been a real privilege to cover the Giants this season, and it's all thanks to WFUV. To be a fully credentialed beat reporter while simultaneously being a junior in college is a very unique opportunity. And the Giants aren't the only team that WFUV has credentials to. They have credentials to every New York professional sports team. And beyond that, hosting weekly sports call-in shows such as One-on-One, New York's longest-running sports call-in show, and live broadcasts of Fordham football and Fordham basketball games on 90.7 FM, it is the coolest experience you can ask for if this is the career you want to go into. To be able to broadcast games on a Saturday. You cover the Giants on Sunday. You hop on a podcast on Monday. You go to class on Tuesday. Wednesday night, you do another show. Thursday, you talk about the Knicks. And on Sunday, it's right back to the Giants. So, what does an average Sunday as a beat reporter for the New York Giants look like? Well, it starts with the trip to the stadium, which can be a bit long. Train into Manhattan, quick walk over to Penn Station, and then a New Jersey Transit train over to the stadium. Usually takes between an hour and an hour and a half, depending on if you time the trains right. I usually like to get to the stadium about an hour early, get set up, watch the teams warm up, get some graphics ready. Once the teams kick off, it's go time. Watching the game closely, live tweeting about the game, making notes to mention in the post-game report. As soon as the final whistle blows, everyone heads downstairs. It's post-game presser time. Coach Dable usually speaks first, then it's usually Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, any player that had an impact play aside from the stars will usually speak, and then the locker room opens up, and that's my favorite part. Being able to walk into that locker room, talk to players, just be around them, it is one of the coolest things ever. All right, now that we're all caught up, let's talk about the reason you clicked on this video. The Giants' playoff clinching victory against the Colts on Sunday. Given the team's impressive turnaround in 2022, I wanted to hear what fans had to say about this new era of Big Blue.
Last year, the Giants, not so good. You look at Joe Judge, you look at Dave Gettleman, an administration that was failed in so many ways. What have you seen this year by Joe Schoen and Brian Dable that have helped turn around the New York Giants?
Yeah, I think it was super important that we cleaned house. Changing the culture up, bringing in a guy who really knows how to run an offense, and Brian Dable, who's doing a really good job over at Buffalo. And then obviously Saquon came back from injury. We've utilized him really well. And yeah, it's just been a great scheme run by those guys.
Talk to me about what Saquon Barkley means to this team.
I think he's the heart and soul of the team. I think he's the workhorse. He's our running back. He's our star player. He's our franchise player. And I mean, Saquon's the team in a lot of ways. I think it's Saquon and then DJ, like 1A, 1B.
With a playoff berth on the line, fans were especially excited before the game. Once the game got underway, it was all Giants. In the second quarter, Daniel Jones threw for 2 touchdowns, and in the third and fourth quarter, ran for 2 more. By halftime, it was 24-3, and as time ticked off the clock and it read triple zeros, the New York Giants were back in the playoffs.
And when you look at this game in general, it was the first Giants victory that was not a one-score game, which the theme of this year was winning hard-nosed, gritty football games. And this week and this year, I guess you could say 2023, they win 38-10 against a Colts team that, frankly, has looked lost all season long. They're coached by Jeff Saturday, who was a former ESPN analyst who came in mid-season, and they've won 1 game against the Las Vegas Raiders, and then they lost the last 6 in a row, including today. So what's next for the Giants? They face the Philadelphia Eagles next week, but the game means nothing. You would expect some starters to be rested. However, when Brian Daboll was asked after the game, he said he wasn't sure yet what he was going to do. What he did say for sure is that Daniel Jones talked to the guys in the locker room and gave everyone 2 days off as opposed to the 1 day off. Daboll said, well, that wasn't my choice, that was Daniel's choice, but Daniel's earned the right to make those decisions because he had a day today and he had the ultimate curtain call when he was taken out for Tyrod Taylor in the fourth quarter. A couple other notes of the game. Landon Collins, the former Giant, now back in Big Blue, pick 6 to make it 21-3 late in the second quarter, and man, it was beautiful to see MetLife Stadium explode like that. I spoke with Paul Dottino, of course, WFUV alum, and I'll get to that interview in just a moment, but what he said, it was just so amazing to have this game clinched at home. As amazing as it would have been to win against the Vikings last week on the road, to win it at home in front of the fans is a moment that the Giants fans deserve. They've earned. And let's just go over here real quick, just for 1 second. And what the Giants fans have earned is a moment that they've ultimately been waiting for over 10 years, because 2016 was a fluke. So I'm going to keep it simple. The Giants are in the playoffs. They're the 6th seed. They're going to go to Santa Clara, California in 2 weeks. Likely Santa Clara, maybe Minneapolis, but look, they've proven they can hang with the best of the best. But Philadelphia and San Francisco are head and shoulders above everyone else. So with no further ado, this is what Brian Daboll had to say after the game.
I thought they played a good complementary game. I think all the units played well. I think the coaches had them ready to play. Most importantly, they were ready to play from start to finish. And when you're playing in higher stakes games, as you guys reminded me all week, I thought they did a good job of just focusing on the task at hand and doing the things we needed to do to get a win. So it's good to get a win. I don't have any injury stuff, so yeah. It was sticky and wet. It was good excitement, obviously. You work hard in this business to try to give yourself a chance to play extra innings or more games. So we have done that, but that's put ourselves in a position to compete more than just one other game. So excitement, sure, definitely.
I also had a chance to catch up with WFAN and former WFUV beat reporter Paul Dottino after the game. Here's a quick interview.
Here at MetLife Stadium, following the Giants' 38-10 victory over the Colts, they clinched the playoffs for the first time since 2016. Here with WFAN's Paul Dottino, WFUV graduate, class of 1986. Paul, what does it mean for the Giants to be back in the playoffs?
Well, it means an awful lot because a lot of luster had come off the face of this franchise. Over the last decade or so, they had only made that one playoff appearance in 16.
Right.
Things had gone downhill to the point where it was really tough for the home fans to chew on. And for them to have the celebration that they had today in a playoff clincher, in all honesty, to me, it's probably outside of the Atlanta playoff game in 11 and the clincher against Dallas at the end of the 11 season, this has got to be right up there. And I think these fans really were hungry for it and they deserved it.
The crowd you wanted to see today, everything about it was so perfect on New Year's Day. And the Giants now going to the playoffs. You look at Daniel Jones. Has he earned his pinstripes, per se, in the New York term?
How about the fact that there were actually chants of Daniel Jones when the Giants took him out of the game in the fourth quarter and they called time to get him out and put Tyrod Taylor in?
He got a curtain call.
To me, that was pretty incredible.
Amazing.
Considering all of the people that have taken shots at Jones unjustifiably over the years. It's my belief that the Giants front office had already decided back near Halloween that the arrow was pointing on bringing Jones and Barkley both back. There's no surprises here as far as I'm concerned.
Amazing. And I got one more for you. Saquon Barkley, the comeback season that everyone was just waiting for. What can he do to potentially fuel a Giants playoff run? Maybe steal one on the road?
Well, I think it's going to take a full team effort because that's the way this Giants team is built. They're not going to be able to just outgun somebody with one or two guys making big plays. This needs to be complementary football. They have to be sound, reduce their penalties, make sure they don't have any turnovers. We know the way they've won games all year. This was an aberration.
No,
they actually
this was
hammered,
not a one-score game for once, right?
No, they hammered somebody.
Yeah, for once.
I mean, think about it. 8 of their 9 wins this season were one-score games. So if they're going to do anything in the postseason, it's probably going to be a one-score game.
It's going to be a nail biter.
Stretch.
Oh my goodness. Well, Paul, appreciate the time.
Glad to be with you. Happy New Year.
Appreciate it. Happy New Year. How far the Giants go in the playoffs remains uncertain. But one thing's for sure. The franchise is in good hands and has a bright future. And for WFUV Sports, I'm Brij Gautam.